I saw the film on Tuesday, and I just think fans are going to die when they see it.
In a good way.
In a good way, yes.
It's a pleasant death.
It's a very pleasant death to have. And I think that it's probably, the best in the series. Maybe it's just because it's the last one, but do you have a favorite from the series?
Oh, man, for different reasons. Twilight was definitely one of my favorites of the series. Just the introduction to the world, the characters was handled so gracefully with Catherine. And that movie, I don't know if people really think about it like it, but it was an indie film. It was, it felt like an independent film while we were making it, and it was like a certain sense of camaraderie with all of us, cast and crew, putting that film together. And then I don't know, Eclipse holds a special place in my heart because I got to be human again as Jasper.
Yeah, no, for sure. So in this one, I know that the vampires stopped aging a long time ago, but there definitely seems to be sort of a sense of maturity and subtlety with all the characters this time. What do you attribute that to, and how does it apply to Jasper?
The thing I really liked about all the characters in the Twilight Saga is the fact that they constantly grow and learn. Even though, they're vampires, they're not going to, look older, but they change emotionally. They're constantly growing emotionally, and I think that's what I was always really attracted to about Jasper, is that he's this guy, when you first see him, he looks like he's always in pain, and he's not having the greatest time acclimating to this new diet. And then kind of towards the end, here in Breaking Dawn Part 2, we finally kind of see him a lot more at ease.
Is there anything that didn't make the cut from the books, to the movies that you would have really liked to see or played out?
Oh man, there's a lot that didn't make it into the cut. I think the scene that I missed most, that I wish we could have had time to do, would be in Eclipse in the book, where I really wanted to show when Jasper and Alice meet. I think that would have been a beautiful moment. And then just in that, it would have been kind of cool just to see like a little bit of almost like a montage of like all the couples kind of meeting and finding each other. Cause those are beautiful moments that Stephanie kind of found in her books.
Yeah. Is there anything that you're a fan of in the same way that the Twilight fans are a fan of this series?
Oh man, maybe the Rolling Stones. And I think the next time the Rolling Stones go on tour, I'm going to be camping out a couple days. I'll do Tent City for the Rolling Stones.
Well, speaking of the Stones and music, you have a new solo album coming out. What can you tell us about that?
Well, my first solo album, Billy Badass, it's called. It's basically named after my first single, which I'm dropping on Saturday, and it's a story. It's about I really like the idea of just kind of studying the Amish for a long time. Don't ask me why.
Have you seen Breaking Amish?
I love Breaking Amish. Great show. There's a great documentary called The Devil's Playground I watched a few years ago. And I like the idea of this little subculture that's very much alive and vibrant, hidden right in the middle of our own culture, that not many people really know much about. And so at 16 in the Amish culture, you go out and for a thing called Rumspringa, where you're allowed to enjoy the evils of the world, so to speak. And then you get a free pass to come back to the Amish faith. It's the only time in your life you can ever do this. And after that, if you decide to leave, then they'll shun you. There's no such thing as going back. And so I really wanted to write a song about that element of, at the end of Rumspringa, like, do you go back? How do you go back? Can you put the world away and go back to just faith? And I think it was a beautiful idea. So I just came up with this little Amish punk band in my head, and then I wrote a song about them.
That's awesome. So Nikki Reed and her husband Paul are musicians too. Have you guys done anything together, or do you plan to, or have you talked about it?
It's interesting when your friends play music and you just play music with them all the time. And whenever I hang out at Nikki and Paul's house, we always end up picking up a couple guitars, showing each other what songs we're working on, but I think there's such a sense of familiarity there. We never really thought about, kind of playing together. But we've been asked a few times now already, and it's like, that's actually a good idea. Maybe we'll give that a go. Or, maybe when they go on tour, I'll play a couple shows with them, or vice versa. It'll be fun. It'll be fun.
That's awesome. Something that's obviously changed about you personally over the course of this is that you have a baby now who's
Yes, so now I'm a daddy.
almost 4 months old. Did you guys do Halloween yesterday? Did they get dressed up?
We kind of did Halloween. We weren't going door to door by any means. My little boy doesn't even have teeth yet. We went. There's a couple streets that get locked off up around Beechwood, Studio City, Sherman Oaks areas. So we went and went to one of these locked off streets and just saw. We wanted to really see what we were going to be able to do next year and the year after, whenever he's actually walking around. And so we dressed him up in a little little Angry Birds costume. He was a red Angry Bird, and then we wore red Angry Bird T-shirts, so we were a family of red Angry Birds. But we didn't play it very well because we were all really happy.
That's awesome. That's really cute and fun. And that kind of leads into my last question, which is, people are interested in your personal lives, and, tabloid culture is a huge part of where we live and what we do here.
Right.
Is that just a necessary evil for what you do, or, what's your kind of take on the celebrity reporting and tabloids?
It's interesting. I thought a lot about that whenever I was first approached by People magazine. They wanted to do a photo shoot after Monroe was born. And at first I was kind of against the idea of it because, I don't really want him out there in that light until he has the right mindset to choose it for himself. But then I also didn't want paparazzi hounding us in order to get the first shot of the baby. So it was kind of like, oh, how do I deal with that? And then I decided to go ahead and do that just because I didn't want, kind of that sensibility of people fighting over the first shot of the baby or anything like that. But to me, the line is drawn in the sand very firmly when it comes to children. There's a lot of countries in the world that have those laws in place that you can't take a photo of a child and put it out there without the parents' consent. And I think the U.S. is one of the few nations that doesn't do that. And that's the only thing that I would say that should change. I always, maybe now as a father, that I look at the tabloids whenever I'm going to the grocery store and I'm kind of walking by them. And I see, Suri Cruise in the cover, and they're having all these crazy stories, and it seems unfair. The child has no choice in the matter, and I don't think that's right to do. But as far as anything else, I believe very, very fervently in the freedom of speech, and people are allowed to say what they want. And it's just, I really, do think that it's upon the individual to choose for themselves what they believe and what they wish to hear, and also the way that they speak is very important. It's an interesting time we're living in, and I'm just lucky to be doing what I love to do for a living. So
yeah, that's awesome.